The sky was no longer blue. By the end of the 22nd century, Earth's skies were choked with chemical particulates, fractured ozone, and artificial satellites turned to tumbling junk. The once familiar scent of rain had been replaced by the acrid sting of acidic vapors. Coastal cities drowned under rising tides. Whole countries became dust storms, choking out all life. Humanity's response was predictable: escape. They constructed the Skyhaven colonies, titanic orbital habitats nestled in the vacuum beyond the stratosphere, connected to each other by solar elevators and magnetic rail tubes. From these gleaming stations, the last 10 million humans looked down upon their ruined world like disappointed gods. But a dream still lingered among them. Some still believed Earth could be restored, not through salvation, but through recreation. The dream birthed a miracle, or perhaps a mistake. It was called Project Neoterra. The Astreus Ring was mankind's most ambitious feat of orbital engineering. It was a massive, glittering circuit encircling Earth's equator like a second belt, suspended in geosynchronous orbit by a mesh of grav-lattice tethers. Spanning continents in circumference, it shimmered with solar reflectors and clustered biolabs. It had no up or down, just radial floors where gravity was artificial and carefully tuned. Sector 19, the heart of Project Neoterra, housed 3 core divisions: the Crucible Gene Foundry, where ancient DNA was reassembled; the Hatchery, incubation bays where biotic matter matured; and the Horizon Chamber, immersive biosphere simulations tailored to extinct habitats, temperate forests, Jurassic wetlands, Miocene plains. From above, Earth appeared silent. From within Astreus, life began to hum once more.
Selene Ayaka had the posture of a dancer and the stare of a war general. Her voice carried the weight of conviction, yet she spoke in whispers. Born to a data miner and a xenobotanist on Skyhaven 4, Selene was a second-generation orbital. She had never touched real soil. She had never heard birdsong. But she had memorized the genome of every extinct species by the time she was 15. Her creation, Resogen, changed everything. It wasn't just an algorithm, it was an interpreter of genetic ghosts. It could predict missing genome sequences with near-total accuracy using quantum probability and adaptive sequencing based on ancient environmental feedback loops. It stitched the dead back together using fragments and context. It didn't just recreate life, it refined it. Selene wasn't restoring Earth as it was. She was reimagining it as it should have been.
Calder Miles believed in hierarchy. Nature, he argued, had always favored apex predators. He believed evolution was too slow, too bound by entropy. He once famously said during a broadcast debate, "Natural selection is just bureaucracy at the genetic level. We can do better." Calder came from the Defense Corps, where he designed neural weapons, organisms that thought like machines. He pioneered neurogenic layered scripting in LS, a language written directly into brain structure. Through this, he could teach a creature how to fight, obey, or even deceive before it was born. He could program instinct, but it was his instinct, the one for control and power, that would be his undoing. Selene called him reckless. He called her sentimental. Their first creations together were beyond promising. They were perfect miracles. Their first success was codename Alpha, but Selene gave it another name, Etheris. Etheris was born in the azure vat of Hatchery 5. It was a resurrection of Quetzalcoatlus, engineered with lightweight bone lattices reinforced with carbon composites, and wings with iridescent nanoplumes that absorbed ambient solar energy. It glided in silence over the forest canopy simulations, dispersing pollen and scanning for air toxins. Its eyes were faceted like a dragonfly's. It saw in ultraviolet. It was so magnificent, it was a dream realized. So why wouldn't they push onward with the project and immediately create another? codenamed Beta. Terravore. Terravore rose from an engineered cocoon in a nutrient-rich soil chamber. Its hide was dark, earthy chitin. Its muscular body slinked beneath the ground like a locomotive made of meat. It chewed stone and excreted fertile loam. Terravore could aerate soil with every footstep and nourish it with every breath. These were not monsters. They were salvation. While Selene was refining nature, Calder was weaponizing it. He was embracing the worst parts of human nature. Deep within Sector 27 of the Astrius Ring, so far off from the primary habitation sectors that even air recycling was done manually, Calder founded the GNOMAW laboratories. Here, in darkness and secrecy, he deployed every technique banned by Neoterra's ethical oversight: unrestricted cross-species splicing, neural override programming, and flash telegenesis. GNOMAW stood for genetic emergence of neo-organisms via metamorphic adaptive warfare. He was building organisms not just to survive a new Earth, but to dominate it, to control it. In cryogenic vats glowed embryonic life, not seen since Earth's Permian age, but twisted, reimagined. No longer bound to a singular ecological role, these creations were multifunctional, modular, tools in fur and bone, abominations. His first creations were terrifying in every way you could use that word. Velociraptor, 6 meters from snout to tail, bipedal, with dense muscle strands modeled after ursine genetics. Its skin shimmered like oil over water, a side effect of chromatophore migration in its dermis. It could render itself nearly invisible to infrared and UV sensors. Behind its eyes were secondary visual lobes for lateral prey prediction. Electrical nodes along its tail could discharge focused EMP bursts. Cheiron, reptilian and sleek, it prowled swamps with webbed claws and a ghastly echoing roar. Derived from saber-toothed cats, gharials, and high-buoyancy deep-sea squids, Cheiron floated over water on helium bladders and ambushed prey with explosive muscle contractions. Mycota swarm, perhaps Calder's most insidious creation. Each member was a fusion of fruit bat, fungal spore pod, and genetically engineered parasitic wasp. On their own, they were scavengers. Together, they formed an airborne hive mind. Infected mammals would become living fungal hatcheries. Calder did not think of these creatures as abominations. He called them the vanguard. His vanguard. Reproduction is evolution's bottleneck. So Calder removed it. Flash telegenesis was a synthetic replication system that bypassed embryonic growth. It used biosynthetic matrices and tissue acceleration protocols to grow an organism from zygote to maturity in under 4 days, fueled by environmental biomass. Each first-generation hybrid was engineered to carry dormant telegenesis glands. Once activated, they could self-replicate without needing partners or offspring. It was evolution with a warp drive. Selene didn't discover any of this until it was far too late. The first generation had already been released on Earth, and only Calder knew his creations were as well. Even Calder didn't expect what happened next. In Earth's unmonitored biomes, the first hybrids multiplied, then evolved. Genetic drift, environmental exposure, and unintended crossbreeding birthed second-generation entities. Glaciodon, a synthesis between Velociraptor and Terravore lineages, Glaciodon was an underground predator with keratin crystal armor and endothermic suppression cells. It could freeze soil and prey alike in moments. Aetheris swarm, born of infected Aetheris and Mycota's convergence. This horror controlled entire stretches of forest. Their spores turned trees bioluminescent. They grew nests in high-altitude canopies and communicated through pulsed light. Echojaw, a result of Cheiron Velociraptor hybrids. Echojaw used throat chambers to mimic wounded prey, or even human voices recorded during orbital descent. It crushed prey between jaw plates lined with vibratory bone spikes, liquefying muscle on impact. These second-generation hybrids had no genetic obedience, no coded instincts. They survived. They adapted. They hunted. The Earth became a battlefield. Velociraptor packs fought Glaciodon clans for territory among the North American ruins. The Battle of Ashgate Heights saw coordinated ambushes and the use of complex lure strategies. Glaciodon armor was penetrated only when a Velociraptor used a downed power station to magnetize its claws. In the Pacific skies, the Mycotis and Etheris swarms waged a fungal war that darkened the horizon. Entire regions were lost beneath drifting bioluminescent clouds. Echojaws dominated rivers. Kyragon clans fell, then adapted, some learning to hunt in coordinated pods like wolves of the water. Out of this emerged outliers. The Jade King, a hyper-intelligent Velociraptor with Hive control ability, a sage among his kind. Null Tusk, a Glaciodon variant with hardened cortical resistance to bioweapons, a veritable tank of a creature. Mother Glare, a sky queen that pulsed light codes across continents, like a shooting star that never fell to Earth. The Earth was no longer wild. It was at war with itself and healing at the same time. Sovereign was born from this chaos, a third-generation anomaly, the result of numerous lineages, combined with untraceable DNA that some theorized was synthetic code folded into CRISPR scaffolding. It emerged from the heart of a fusion crater in former Australia, fully grown, encased in bioferrous plating like tree bark soaked in metal. Sovereign could change its size and shape at will and communicate through a kind of harmonic telepathy. Sovereign could modify its own genome on the fly. It developed multi-tiered nervous systems and bred its own caste. Sentinels, defense elites with pheromone-based rage triggers. Sovereign's personal guard, completely loyal, following orders without hesitation. Carriers, mobile replication platforms. Sovereign's bottomless grab bag of DNA. So creation is just a harmonic telepathic thought away. And scribes, organic servers encoding entire regions' ecological memory. Sovereign's archivists, alerting him the moment anything, anywhere, is out of balance. It halted the war-born epoch not with violence, but order. Sovereign restructured the hybrids. It brought hierarchy. It brought command. And the Earth fell quiet. Selene returned to the surface. She had to see Sovereign for herself. Up close. It was a god, born out of entropy. The risk was worth the possible reward. What she found was awe and horror. Towering jungles of chlorophyll-rich flora, spored creatures that glowed under moonlight, and forests patrolled by silent, armored behemoths. Nothing paid any heed to her, as though she didn't even exist. She tracked Sovereign to the Memory Reef, a silicon reef-mined bank in the Pacific Trench. When she finally stood before it, it didn't attack. It offered her access. You tried to save a dead planet. Sovereign pulsed through chemical signals. We gave it new life. The ones above will return. They will bring fire again. Stand with us. We are not your enemy. They are. Selene thought about all the damage humans had done to the planet the first time around, realizing a second chance just wasn't something that had been earned. Calder had shown her humans didn't deserve another chance on the planet. But these creatures, these miracles, were already undoing all the harm mankind had done. She placed her palm on Sovereign's carapace and said, yes. Earth flourished in alien beauty. Flora returned in unfamiliar forms. Fauna adapted to Sovereign's new rules. The planet was convalescing, and very quickly. In Skyhaven, the surviving humans watched and were denied. Orbital gates refused activation. Gene-coded defenses rendered all drones inert. The planet had a new steward, and the old ones were no longer welcome. Selene's final transmission, relayed only once before disappearing. We did not destroy humanity. We simply told it, you are not welcome back. The age of man had ended. The age of Genesis had begun. And what comes next is a story for another time. Like and subscribe for more stories. Comment with your thoughts, and if you want to see the next part of this story,